Hello, this is Edith Newmeyer, and I am the author of the book, The Mystery of Adam. Well, I want to continue my topic on um, complementarianism. So I'm talking right now about kind of comparing complementarianism with egalitarianism. And I did a little research on the internet, and I discovered that there is so much out there on complementarianism and not so many on egalitarianism. There is more debunking of egalitarianism than there's actually support. And I was kind of shocked. I was kind of shocked that, um, you know, there's so much out there on complementarianism. And I have kind of noticed that too, lately, that people are just talking more and more about it, and also more and more about this complementarianism infiltrating the churches. And I was not before aware of that. So I want to continue this um, kind of study on complementarianism because it's just so important. I just listened to somebody, and I didn't listen to the whole thing, but as I did my research online, and I do a lot of YouTube kind of research, and so I came across some people that were just terrible misogynists, which, you know what, I didn't ever think that men can be so cocky and so inflated in their thinking, that they're superior than to women. And and I just want to say to women that had to deal with that, please get out of that thinking. That's all I can say. Get out of that thinking. It is false. It is nothing but false. I had this guy trying to convince people. And of course, I looked at the comments on the bottom. It was nothing but men, supporting what that guy said. And he actually was saying that, men are superior, superior to women in everything. And I'm thinking, boy, oh boy, how can anybody be so cocky and so convinced of themselves? But that's maybe exactly what's going on. We are getting into this gender war that is probably worse than what I've ever imagined it to be. Yeah, and I want to call it gender war because if we are not getting better, we have now two camps. We have, of course, egalitarian that would like to improve um, standards for women, right, in the church. They not improve, but they want um, that the church is egalitarian. And then, of course, we have these people that are fighting like crazy to keep it the old way. And when I talk about the old way, that is patriarchy. Patriarchy meaning that the man is in charge over the woman. Okay. Now we have in complementarianism, which I have explained in my last video, we have kind of more a relaxed view of this patriarchy. Nevertheless, it's still patriarchy because they claim that the man still is an authority over women. So we have more this relaxed view. Relaxed view, so more women can accept it. Oh, the man is now a servant leader. Oh, the man or men and women are now equal and they complement each other, but yet the man is still in charge. Okay, so that is more like a soft, it's almost like a soft porn. I'm thinking about soft porn. Can you believe that? Because That's how it comes across. Porn is not good, but when we have soft porn like 50 Shades of Grey, then we can watch it. It's not bad. It's not hard porn, right? Well, it's almost like that, with patriarchy. Oh, we're going to make it soft so people can accept it better. Okay? So we have a better approach. So I definitely have seen doing this research that it is very vitally important that we speak up. Okay? And I don't like arguing. I don't like arguing. That is definitely not what I want to do. I do not want to argue, okay, because it doesn't do any good. But what I want to reach those people that are kind of in between, because I see that there are in between people, okay? They're just recently come out of complementarian households or complementarian churches, and they are starting to wake up. And those are the people that we need to empower, okay? And I didn't see that need before, but I think it is extremely important. It is extremely important because these people have been so confused in the regular church that it is very hard to break loose. It's almost like an addiction. Okay, we have a hard time when we have a alcoholic. It's hard to break away. Why? Because we have believed a lie for so long, and we are so brainwashed that we are stuck in that lie. And when somebody tells you the truth, it's almost like we can't hear it because for so long we have believed this lie. And that is exactly the case with most churches. And why complementarianism is actually getting such a foothold in the church. Most churches are built on a hierarchy. They believe hierarchy is the normal thing in a church. And because they believe hierarchy is the normal thing in a church, which really we should know that's not what uh, Paul was teaching. Okay, Paul was not teaching hierarchy, but people made it into hierarchy. Over 2,000 years of history, the church became hierarchy. Okay, actually it became faster, but we did not. When we reformed the church, we did not put away with hierarchy like we were supposed to. Luther, Calvin, other reformers, they kept holding on to hierarchy. Why? Well, because it's easier to control people. Hey, we are on top. We will tell you what's the truth, and we will control the truth. And that's what hierarchy does. And because none of the reformers stood up to this hierarchy, we are still so strongly embedded in this hierarchy thinking that, of course, everything else fell under this hierarchy. Okay? So patriarchy had a stronghold in this hierarchical structure of the church. It's very easy when we believe in hierarchy that eventually we will say, well, actually, we cannot put away, that we're all equal. We just can't. We are stuck in hierarchy. So, 2,000 years believing in a lie, 2,000 years. And I'm not even addressing the problem that I addressed in my book, which I addressed in my last video, because that is a very important factor. I am now going on and saying that the hierarchy is the one that keeps us stuck in believing that there's a hierarchy in the church, there's a hierarchy, in marriage, and then there's a hierarchy in the Trinity. Because we're so stuck and we have never ever questioned that belief about hierarchy in the church. Okay, now there are some people that I have mentioned in some of my videos. For instance, Frank Viola, who started this, and I don't know if I should call it a movement, but who started organic churches. They totally believe that there is no hierarchy in the church. So we are talking about some really new reformers, and I call them reformers. Like Frank Viola, I call him a reformer. Okay, but his idea or his theology that he really gained from reading the Bible um, is not widespread. We are still stuck in the traditional church, which is built on hierarchy. Everything that we read in the Bible, okay, everything is filtered through this hierarchical thinking. Somebody has to be on top, okay? And unless we change that thinking pattern, that there is no hierarchy in the church, we will not break the bondage of these false teachers that are coming now into the church, and they are strengthening actually the stronghold that Satan already had in the church. Okay? We look at the traditional churches today, and they are all hierarchical, and they are all believing that women are under men. Okay, that women have to, and I don't want to use the word submit, because submit is an okay word. Women are supposed to submit, but so should men. See, they exclude men from submitting and saying, oh, well, because women have to submit, men can have authority over. But that's the false thinking that we are running into. That is not correct thinking. That is not what Ephesians says. That is not what any part of the Bible says. That because we are addressing submission, or that Paul addressed submission with women, does not exclude men from submitting as well. Okay? But we are stuck in this hierarchical thinking. And because of that, everything else is infiltrated by sin. We believe a sin. We have believed in this sin, in this lie long enough. And because we have believed in this lie long enough, our eyes are shut. And the more we believe in lies, the more Satan can heap lies on us. And that is the reason why complementarianism can be such, or has such a stronghold in our traditional churches. Okay? And which really means that they are now using biblical proof to show that it is biblical. They're not just using biblical proof, but they're going a step further. And they are meddling with basic theology, which is the Trinity. Okay? Now, I'm not saying the Trinity, I don't believe in the Trinity, but I believe in God, in who God is. That's what I believe in. But these people are meddling with the character of God. And when you meddle with the character of God, that is called blasphemy. Okay? That's called blasphemy. Jesus was considered blasphemous when he said, I am God. Okay? When he made himself God in front of the Pharisees, declared himself to be God, that's when the Pharisee says, you are blaspheming. You're blaspheming. Well, the reverse is the same thing. When we're degrading Jesus to less than fully God, we are blaspheming. Okay? And these people, these complementarians, that is one of the signs that we should get that they are blaspheming. And they're now no longer part of the true church of Jesus. Okay? They may infiltrate the regular churches, but they're no longer now. And if this continues, and these churches that will embrace complementarianism, they continue to get sucked into that, they will start believing the same thing. And that's when we have what? Apostasy. Okay? That means we will have the fallen away of the church. Okay? The church will fall away from basic beliefs. We all have kind of a variety of beliefs. Some believe in, I don't remember, post-trib, mid-trib, these kinds of things. We believe we have a variance in our doctrines, but we all agree fundamentally that a Christian, and we go there to John, that we believe that Jesus Christ is God in the flesh. If we do not believe that Jesus Christ is fully God in the flesh, then we are no longer considered Christians. We are then becoming a sect. And that's from John in his letters. Okay? That is when we are getting into the Antichrist spirit. And that is exactly what these people are doing, like Grudem and Piper. They're just going into these extremes, and they go against the tradition of the church, the tradition of the apostles, and the tradition, of, let's say, the reformers. Because I know if we go in the tradition of the Catholic Church, we can't do that. Okay? Because we have to break away from the Catholic Church. Because the Catholic Church was the one that started the hierarchy in the first place. Hierarchy didn't exist, or very minimally exist in the first churches. I think before the Roman Catholic Church kind of became into existence, there were already there was already people that were trying to dominate the churches. Okay, and they were trying to take over, the church, and dominate and say to the church what they have to believe. It was already there, probably before 316. Constantine united all the churches. Okay, however, there was still freedom, and in the hierarchy in the churches, in the individual churches, was not as strong, not as strong. Okay, so now that we are set in this mindset that hierarchy is okay, we evaluate everything we read in the Bible with hierarchy. Hierarchy, hierarchy, hierarchy. If we read about, for instance, elders, we are thinking, oh, the elders have authority over the church. No, elders mean there is a task that needs to be fulfilled. Okay, what is that task? The task is not, hey, you're supposed to tell the church what to do. The task is you're supposed to protect the church from invaders, from false doctrine. Okay, that is what your job is, not to limit the rest of the church and the gifts of the church, every believer, because every believer has a gift. It's not limiting. It's not putting yourself on a pedestal and tell everybody else what to say and tell them to shut up and I'm the only one who's going to say it, because that's what we have today. Okay, we have this hierarchy. And in fact, it's not even a hierarchy sometimes. It is we have somebody on top and everybody else on the bottom is quiet. Okay, all the God-given, the Holy Spirit, the gift of the Holy Spirit, are shut up because this one person thinks he knows it all. And that is what we're talking about, hierarchy. And if that is not addressed in the churches, then the church will go astray. And it's the same thing with egalitarianism. If we're not addressing the real problem, the real problem, okay, which is we need to change this thinking about hierarchy in the church, then we cannot step up and change these infiltrating complementarian. Now, I am assuming that a complementarian has probably no chance in a real egalitarian church. The complementarian will infiltrate churches that already have a belief that there's a hierarchy in the church and that the men are on top, that the men are in authority. And so these can infiltrate. Now, guess what? We just have quite a lot of these churches. Okay, we just don't have enough of the egalitarian churches because these other churches are saying, "Oh my goodness, they're liberals." When we give equal um, um, equal status to women, oh, we're becoming liberals and we're becoming feminists. And wait a minute, we can't allow feminists. Well, I agree. Okay, I agree. I think, again, we have to define feminism. Okay, that is very important. We have to define feminism. And I will not address this in this video. Maybe I need to address this in the next video about feminism. Because I think I'm going to write this down, because that is very important uh, to really think about what is feminism. I believe Jesus was the biggest feminist, okay? He gave extreme value to women, and that's feminism, okay? He loved women, and I'm saying love because he respected them. He cared for them. Now, that is feminism, right? Now, of course, we also have these extreme forms, like I call them militant feminists. Okay, in other words, where we go from one extreme to another extreme. Okay, we have patriarchy, matriarchy. They're the same. Okay, people are the same. So it's the same thing whether men are in charge or women are in charge. It doesn't matter. Okay, Jesus said, submit to one another. So that's where the mutual submission comes in. So next time I will talk about feminism. But let's stay with hierarchy. We really have to think about this because hierarchy is the crux. Okay? Hierarchy is the crux. And if you are not in a church that really tries to put away with this hierarchy, then it's very, very hard to accomplish this egalitarian thinking. Because egalitarian thinking is not just focusing on male-female issues. It really focuses on egalitarianism with everything. Okay? If I don't have an egalitarian thinking, in other words, I respect everybody. Okay? Everybody is equally important. Everybody And I'm not saying there's no differences, okay? I'm not saying that. I know that men are physically stronger than women. But does that make them more important? Does that make them more valuable? Oh, they produce more because they're physically stronger? And that makes them more valuable because they produce more? Or because they produce more in our heads? In our thinking. Okay, so again, this hierarchy thinking is something, and I have already addressed in my last video, that hierarchy thinking comes out of our sinful nature, period. Okay, it comes out of our sinful nature, and it infiltrates the church, and it has infiltrated the church for 2,000 years. And it's about time that we need to change that, because if we don't change it, okay, it's very hard to change the mindset of people. And I really believe that maybe the cleansing is happening in this way, that people will fall away. There's always this talk about apostasy, that the falling away. And maybe that is part of the falling away, that people have been so blinded by believing these lies that they're actually stuck. They're just totally stuck. And eventually, we are going to have groups, a small remnant of people that are left over that will be true believers. And everybody else will have been deceived majorly, majorly. Because if this is continuing, this is not just an egalitarian problem, these complementarians. This is not just an egalitarian problem. And maybe, I don't know if some people have recognized that. It is a problem of basic Christian beliefs. That's just what it is. Let's just take away with, complementarianism or egalitarianism and go to the bottom line. The bottom line is when I have to change the character of God to prove something, okay, to prove that women are not, or that women are under men and men are in authority over women, that is pretty bad. It is a major, major problem. So that should not happen. So again, please think about that. I will continue speaking about this topic for a while because I just think I didn't address this in my book. Again, because when I wrote my book, it was not as relevant, but it has become more and more relevant, I believe, and I haven't even noticed that. I am, of course, I'm part of a Facebook page, and they have addressed it. Various people have addressed this complementarianism, and I'm thinking, what is the problem? What is the problem with it? And then I researched it, and I'm thinking, wow, there is a bigger problem what I can or what I've seen in the past. It's a huge problem, very huge problem. And again, that huge problem is because we're changing the character of God. So for me, those are blasphemers. They're blasphemers, and they should be. If you really belong to a good church, you need to say, "Hey, these are blasphemers. We don't want to have anything to do with it." Okay, and there's sects out there, and I call them sects, and you know who I'm talking about probably. And we know that these people are not Christians. And you know what? We're not going out there constantly constantly arguing with these people. We know what they believe. We know they're not Christians, and we leave them alone. Okay? And eventually, this has to happen with these complementarians as well. Okay? We're just going to have to leave them behind, and we need to acknowledge that they are not Christians anymore. And I think that is exactly what's happening today, is that they're infiltrating the church right now, not only with this complementarianism, but with something much more dangerous, much more dangerous. Okay? And so if you're listening right now and you're in between this complementarianism and egalitarianism, that is the major, major problem of complementarianism, is that they go against the character of God. That's what it is. And I challenge you, and there is a guy that actually did some research, and I will bring him up next time. Either that or we'll find him and then put him on the comment section on the bottom. So you can maybe do some research on him. He really addressed this problem with Piper and Grudem and the hierarchy in the Trinity. And I think it's Giles. In fact, I think I met the guy at one time. I belonged to, or I used to belong to Christians for Biblical Equality. And in one of our meetings, he was actually present. And so I will put the person underneath when I find his name. And so you can do some research. Do some research, and I will talk more about this topic because I think this is a very important thing that I need to be addressing at this point. I will take a break from doing more research on my book because whatever I'm going to start next time on my new book uh, will be a sticky subject, anyways. So maybe I do need a break right now and talk about complementarianism and versus egalitarianism. All right. You have comments, put them on the bottom. You know, anything, if you have questions, put them on the bottom. And I will see you soon and talk more about this topic.